It's the Blue Vote Cafe, a little bit wonkish, a whole lot of fun. I'm David Schellenberg along with Rachel Oyster. We're the co-chairs for Democrats Abroad in Canada's capital region of Ottawa. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, David.
How was your Thanksgiving weekend?
Oh, we have to do the whole Canadian Thanksgiving versus American Thanksgiving thing. In Canada, we celebrate Thanksgiving often on like the second Monday of the month.
Yep.
And that was just this past weekend. And it was lovely, thank you. I had a cousin visiting from Maryland.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make something Canadian, didn't feel like turkey, so we made a traditional Canadian Christmas Eve dish, tourtière.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I bet you made it like fresh dough, and you actually mixed up the filling.
The filling completely from scratch. I've never made one before, and I was really happy with the way it came out. It was delicious.
Wow. How traditional did you get?
Well, I don't know, since it wasn't my tradition growing up, but I did. I mean, we didn't go to midnight mass, if that's what you're asking.
No. No. Like a good tourtière has got venison in it.
Oh, I see. Well, I talked to a Francophone friend this morning, and she told me the style I made is Lac Saint-Jean tourtière because it has potato in it. Who knew? And she seems to put in a lot of different meat mixtures. I used beef and pork, but she said veal will make it moister, and so maybe next time.
It is definitely sausage in a pie of tradition.
Sausage stuffing in a pie.
Yeah. Like, sausage would have been way back in the good old days, kind of whatever scraps you had kicking around, you ground them all up and put some spices in it and tortillas.
Lovely spices.
Oh, so good. So good. Now I'm just hungry.
Very good. I'm sorry. I have some left. You're not that far away.
Oh, that's true.
Finish recording.
That's true.
Head on over and I'll give you a piece.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Who's with us today, Rachel?
Today, we are joined by Robin Roberts, therapist abroad, and I can't wait to talk to her. Robin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We're really looking forward to hearing what you have to tell us.
And what you had for dinner over the weekend.
Yes, well, we can start with dinner.
Well, I did not have a Canadian Thanksgiving, but typical regular Amsterdam meal, which is also fine.
Well, now I'm curious. What's a regular Amsterdam meal?
Oh my gosh, it's like meat and potatoes filled with like andivie or some kind of vegetable. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds delicious. So you had the same meal as I did, but mine was in a crust and yours was accompanied by vegetables.
Exactly. I think we were on the same page somehow.
Yes. That's wonderful. So we usually like to start by asking our guests where they are, and I think you've already given us a hint.
Yeah.
What brought them there and what keeps them there and what state they vote out of.
Sure. So, again, originally an American from New York, but I've been living in Amsterdam now for 10 years. What brought me here was people either come for love or work. I had come for love. So I had met my husband while living in New York, and we moved back here about 10 years ago. So I started my practice here in the Netherlands and have patients quite all over the world, but probably 75% of them here in the Netherlands and 25% elsewhere. But where I vote out of, I actually vote out of Florida.
It's an important vote.
Sure is. It sure is. So I've made sure that I've kept my Florida license good and going.
Excellent. Yeah. So the people that you in your practice in the Netherlands, does that tend to be expats or does it include citizens of the Netherlands?
Yeah, so it's a bit of both, but primarily it's expats. I would really say that my practice focuses on that. But if I have an expat who's in a couple with a Dutch person, then of course that would happen. But I have expats from all over the world. So Canadians, Americans, I have some French clientele. I have a lot of British. You name it, I've probably seen them and had them in my office or on my Zooms. So again, it could be that they've come here for work or for love or were here and then left and also were my patient here. And then I've kind of followed them around. So that also can happen quite a bit.
That's awesome.
I can see how people want to talk to somebody familiar or somebody from home. And the reason I say that is I've got a family member who's from Ethiopia a very distinguished, very black man, and he's in Regina, Saskatchewan, and he just feels out of place there. And do you find that's why you have a lot of expats as your clients?
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the big reasons is because I do speak the language and I do understand the culture, and I will get the nuances of the jokes or the feelings that some other people might not get. I do understand what's happening in the home country because, yeah, I'm from there. But I do think those are primary reasons why people come in. But then another big piece is that I am also an expat. So I get what they're going through, so they can relate to me in a different way than if they had a therapist who was maybe living in the U.S. but has never lived abroad. So they would still have the language and the culture, but they wouldn't really understand the piece of what it feels like living abroad and being isolated or, having a pretty limited social network.
Right, especially in a country where you don't necessarily speak the language.
Yeah, the language is a big piece, and I think Dutch culture as well. It's quite different than a lot of different cultures, and I think people don't realize that until they move here, and they're like, "Oh, that's interesting. that Dutch directness. Yeah. Whoa, I didn't expect that." So that is something that comes up a lot.
Can you give us an example of Dutch directness? Yeah. Pique my curiosity.
Yeah, there's so many. Where would one begin? But one that I often would get is, "Well, why are you wearing that?" Quite a lot of critiques or criticism, and you're like, well, it's just a sweater, and they're like, yeah, but it looks awful. So like very directed
and personal,
and very personal. And the thing that I've learned in my decade here is that a lot of times people don't stand back to that. They really will take it. Where now in 10 years, I'm like, leave my sweater alone. I'm not sure what your concern is. And then they're like, you don't have to get emotional. It's okay. I didn't mean anything by it. I'm like, but now you're getting emotional. So I think you just have to a little bit stand up to the directness and kind of state your case a little bit more. That happens also in the healthcare system here. If you really have things that you need or want, you really have to learn to be pretty directive. Otherwise, it won't happen for you.
Wow. Fascinating.
Especially in here, talking about the French Canadians, that's in many ways when you deal with the French in Canada have that same directness.
Yeah, it was wild when I first moved here. I was like, do I cry every day because people are saying really mean things to me, or do I just figure out how to adapt? And I have figured out how to adapt to it. So I think, again, that's something, even it comes up in the therapy sessions a lot, like how do I deal with this big cultural difference? As a New Yorker, we would always talk to everyone. People sometimes give New Yorkers a bit of a bad review, but I feel like I would always be talking to people or be open and engaging. And that was just a part of who we were as people. And yeah, even here, sometimes people are like, you're so loud or you're talking so much. And I'm just like, hey, this is just who I am. And
deal with it.
You're going to have to deal with it. Exactly. I'm here to stay. So get used to it. Yeah.
So you've been there. Oh, I'm sorry, David. I cut you off a minute ago. Did you have a question?
No, it was just sort of another observation about not having family and kind of that's very much what I went through with this Thanksgiving weekend in Canada. My family's all in a different city. So even though I'm still within Canada, it's an interesting thing when these sort of events come along. And I know exactly what you're saying with, you just don't have that traditional root of some sort. So, for a Canadian Thanksgiving weekend, I've learned everybody goes and deals with their family, and I just sit and watch baseball all weekend long. So you do find ways to adapt it, but it's amazing how that happens, even within your own country.
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of times, patients will really struggle. I saw this a lot during the COVID times where they're like, I just can't see my family. I want to be with my family. And, being with family also as a therapist, I know, brings up its own issues.
Yeah,
but when
sure.
you know that you can't be with them, it's quite a different feeling.
Well, the different feeling I found was everybody else is with their family, but I'm not. So it's not that I couldn't see my family. It's just I was shut out of all the other family things because, we just don't have family here.
Exactly. And it can feel really strange, you feel isolated. And I find the groups that I work with, or even in my own exploration for 10 years here, you create new groups, but as expats, people are moving. People are moving around. Sometimes people are here for 2, 3 years. Sometimes people are here for 10. Like, you just don't know, but you make these connections. But it's not the same as the country you're from, or the city you're from, or the state, that you have these connections that are lifelong. These are new connections that you really have to forge ahead. And I think especially when you're struggling with mental health stuff, it's hard to connect to people with that and wonder, hey, can I trust them, or can I open up this kind of thing, where with families or friends that you've known for a long time, it would be probably easier to do.
For sure. So you've been there pretty much the entirety of Trump's occupancy of his first
Correct.
term.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what have you seen in the expat community, first with the first term and now with what's going on now?
Yeah, I've seen some interesting things, and I'll tell you, the first go around, everyone said this will never happen. So people actually were pretty relaxed, and people didn't. We're a little bit worried about the propaganda and things being said, but overall, we're like, it's just never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Right.
And then it happened. He was elected. And I think everybody's kind of view of America and life in that moment crashed down, because people really, none of my patients at that time, including myself, didn't think it was going to happen, but it happened. So I think getting through that period was tough for people. But then I saw them a bit start to bounce back, right? Like, so saying, okay, it's only 4 years, like, we'll never be in this situation again.
Yeah.
We're going to get through it. And now circle to now, where I think people were more like, it is going to happen this time. So they were already preparing, I think, for this experience. And my practice, I have to say, normally the weather in the Netherlands is not so hot, so all the time, except for the summer months, where we maybe have like 2, 3 months where we have pretty decent weather, but people are traveling a lot during the summer. So it is always a time where I see numbers go down a little bit. People are like, yeah, I'll catch you in September, or, we'll take a little bit of a couple weeks break. Not this year. This year, it was more than ever. People needing intakes, people needing emergency sessions, people really struggling from January on. I've just seen a total influx, and a lot of expats who were supposed to go home or were planning on moving back saying, I don't want to go now. And how does that look? Can I stay here? Can I not? Or even people from the US calling me saying, yeah, we're in need of a therapist in the Netherlands because we're trying to move there.
Right.
Like, we're trying to leave the US. And I even get that from other therapists. How do I be a therapist there? Like, how does that work? We really,
wow.
So kind of, a lot of people trying to exit, and a lot of people here trying to stay. Like, what are the options of staying? How do I do that?
Right. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, I was wondering if you'd been seeing an increase in depression and despair and malaise and all the negative. Yeah.
Yeah, the two things that I'm seeing the most in my practice is obviously depression, but also anxiety. So the anxiety is off the charts, whether it's manifesting through OCD, like obsessive compulsive disorder, or just this persistent, thinking errors and tape running in your brain all the time, and worried about everything, worried about, if I travel, what's going to happen? Am I going to be allowed back? Am I going to go through this? Is there going to be a gun in this place that I'm going to? Like, so many worries about everything. And I really try to focus on, there's so much in the world we can't control. And how do we just focus on the things that we can, and really trying to make it smaller? But depression and anxiety are really the highest I've seen in years, in a long.
Is part of the problem that it's not just the United States, but it feels like a lot of countries have kind of gone crazy?
Yeah, I think it's world problems for sure. Again, because I have people all over the world that I see here in the Netherlands. I have some patients who are Israeli, and I have, other patients who are from other countries, and a lot of refugees. So like it is the world. But I tend to find the Americans are, of course, focused on their fears of America, fears for their families and their friends, or even if they were to return.
Right. So are there general things that people can do to stay mentally healthy and balanced and stave off some of those negative feelings?
Yeah. I mean, I think that really sometimes with these patients, I try to go back to basics because people come to me and they're spinning. They're out of control. Like everything is lost. I can't control anything. I can't get out of bed. And I'm just like, how do we focus on today? Not thinking about what happens in the next 4 years, what happens just for today. So trying to make experiences a lot smaller is something that I really work with them around. And also returning to their body. People are stuck so deeply in their heads. I mean, we're on devices 24/7. We're stimulated all of the time. Our central nervous system is just on the fritz. So really, how do we ground ourselves? And grounding, I mean, really like grounding our body. So using our senses more, using the sense of sight, smell, taste, sound, to just get out of our heads a little bit and return to the body. Because normally when we can return to the body, we can feel, oh, I've got tension in my shoulders, or yeah, my stomach is a little bit bothering me. And oh, yeah, my mind is so spinny. I haven't slept in 2 days. So then you can actually start to see things a little bit better. When we're stuck in our minds thinking and thinking and thinking, we can't access that. So we don't even really know what we're feeling until our bodies actually give up. So I also have so many patients who are on what's called burnout leave here, where they have just totally wiped out from work and they are on leave. And sometimes they can be on leave for up to a year here in the Netherlands. And it's because their just body has shut down because they just can't do it anymore.
Wow. That's crazy.
So calming the central nervous system is a big thing that I work on. That's through meditation, breath work, sound healing, again, that grounding, but also focusing on the things that are small that we can control. Like, can we control that we go to the social outing? Can we control that we call a friend that we're really missing from home or try to do a FaceTime with them? Like, what are the small moments that we can have some access to that could really make a difference? And there's actually some really great apps out there that can help people stay connected. There's an app called Marco Polo. I don't know if either of you have heard of it, but it sends video messages. So you can just be going about your day, sending a message to a friend, and then they see this message. It's you live in your environment, and then they send you one back. And it's quite connective still, especially when people are really far away. So small things like that can also make a difference.
And what about like going for a walk?
Yeah, moving your body is the hugest piece. And I think, again, in countries like the Netherlands, where the weather sometimes is really rough, and rainy and gray, you have to try to move your body in the best way that you can. And again, I think that that's part of some of the somatic experience that I'm talking about, where you can tune into yourself a little bit better. So taking a walk is great. Even just stretching, like if the weather stinks outside, that you can just do some early morning stretching, and just trying to find a little pace. I ask people really to even put this stuff in their calendars, right? So they get an alert to remind them to do it, and that it just doesn't pass by, because it's always great to have the idea, but like, how often are you going to do it? You really have to make the time and energy to do that.
It is tough. Yeah. I find when I work from home, it's like every hour and a half, 2 hours, you really have to just stand up and go walking around the block.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's weird you mentioned technology, because I would think technology is just hard to get away from. And part of the reason it's hard to get away from it is because the technology, the social networks, the news networks, everything is designed to keep you connected. The technology shows you what you want to see in a way that you want to see it, because it craves attention. And then the problem with that sort of attention is it's not always good for you for the long run.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of these kind of grounding tools that I do with a lot of patients is limiting your screen time, limiting your time on Instagram or Facebook or any of these outlets. But you can use it to your advantage, and you can use it to, search for videos of dogs riding skateboards and flood your algorithms with these things to lift the mood and try to get some of the other things out. I also tell patients, like, I'm happy that they'll read articles, but watching videos, for me, that really triggers the trauma response a lot in our minds when we see these images. The images are really hard to forget. When we read a text, it's easier for us to be able to put it away. So I also ask them to try to monitor that, like clicking on live videos and things like that is not the best for the brain. And reading it is okay. I don't want people to feel like they have to put their head in the sand, but I just want them to do it in a way that's helpful and not traumatic or triggering for them.
What about channeling that anxiety into something productive, like fighting back against what we're facing?
Yeah. I mean, some of the things that we also focus on in sessions a lot is what can you do? Yeah. People come in and they feel really, really helpless.
Right.
We say, like, what are the things that you can actually do from here? So can you volunteer? Can you get involved with, Democrats Abroad? Can you find organizations that represent your values that you can take part in or donate to? Those are things that you can do. Can you harness this energy to reach out to other people or get people to vote, or again, get them to look into causes? Those are things that are possible.
And you help to counter that. the pit.
Yeah. Unless it's the people that are the problem. I can see how, you're trying to get away from it, and you go out to a Democrats Abroad meeting, and all everybody ever does is sit around gloom and doom about the state of Trump.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, again, people do want the information, but then they have to understand what they do with it after, right? Like, because you're going to see it, you're going to hear it, but then what do you do? Like, how do you say, okay, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes to sit with this horribleness, and then I'm going to be able to say, I got things to do. I'm going to move on with my day. Like, sometimes, again, I'll ask people, set your timers and say, 5 minutes, I'm going to just ruminate, stress out about it, yell about it.
Yep.
And then once that timer goes off, I got to move on to the next thing. I can come back to it later, but like I really try to keep it more contained. Now, my anxiety people struggle with this, of course. They're like, the timer went off and I'm not done. And I'm like, you're done for now, right? Yep. You're really done for now. Yep. Let's maybe do a couple of things. And then if you need another 5 minutes, then we can reset and do it that way.
Yeah. How do you get out of that? Like last night I was in a bar and a friend was just complaining about complainers. And it's just, would you stop complaining about complainers? And all I could think of was, how do I get out of this?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, right? And again, distraction can work. Oh, how about that game? Or how about this? Sometimes people can get off of it. But if people are really in that space where they're just going to complain, they're going to go. They're going to keep going. And it's up to us, I think, to try to separate ourselves and say, yeah, I didn't really sign up for that today. Or I'm sorry that you're hurting, but let's try to move forward. And, that we're always going to deal with difficult people. Those people just exist everywhere. So trying to set boundaries is always a thing that's really important as well.
So what about partners who aren't American, who just don't understand? I don't know why you might be involved with Democrats Abroad or why you're so... Well, I mean, because as we know, Democrats Abroad is endlessly fascinating, and there's so much work that can be done through this
vehicle. Take all your time.
It can be all-consuming. We call it the vortex in Canada sometimes, but if you get sucked up into that, or not as an activist or a volunteer, but you get your anxiety and your depression has increased, and your partner can't understand why you're so upset.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my practice is filled with couples who are from different backgrounds, right? So when you're in a multicultural relationship, as am I, you communicate in a different language, right? You understand things differently. Again, nuances play a role there. So if they don't understand something, even that a partner has said, how can we expect them to understand something that's maybe happening in the world? So I work with... Again, the partnership to really understand just the feeling. So you don't have to understand why people voted for this person or why they're in power and control or why they haven't gone to prison. You don't have to understand any of that, but you just have to understand the feeling that it brings up.
The effect that it's having on your partner. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And that is often enough to kind of reframe it, to just say, tell me what I'm feeling, right? Like, I'm feeling this, using a lot of I statements instead of the finger pointing or you don't understand, like the blame game. I do more than you, kind of, the scorekeeping. None of those tactics really work in couples. And I think when there's a lot of turmoil, you're coming from different backgrounds. So I don't expect you to be, a multicultural expert. I just expect you to understand what the feeling is for your partner and to offer whatever empathy you can. Empathy can go a long way in these situations.
Absolutely. So what about, because you have clients in the Netherlands and you do have some back home. So how do you see differences in how people who are outside the US are experiencing what's going on from, say, I don't know if you've had any clients in Portland, but people whose noses are being, rubbed in it on a daily basis?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have to say, like, my anxiety patients are ones who are in the US. I mean, I have them here, but it is much higher in the US. And I think, again, it depends on where you're living. I recently had a client who lived in the Netherlands for 6 years, and she just moved back to Portland a month ago and is really struggling with that transition. And again, we just have to prepare them as best we can with what kind of support you can wrap yourself in when you've arrived back. Not only is it just a big transition of leaving one environment to the other, but when you repatriate, it brings up a whole lot of stuff too. And when you go back to a country, one, you don't want to be in, and two, it feels very messy. It makes the repatriation process, one, longer, and two, really difficult.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
So again, the anxiety part of the patients in the U.S. is really, again, working on the control piece, like what they can control, where they can be, how they can even protect themselves from, like, difficult people, difficult conversations, difficult scenarios, like what kind of things they want to try to avoid. So those are tactics that we also explore.
At the risk of asking an insensitive question, are people overly sensitive? Like, my latte is the wrong temperature kind of thing, where, it sort of builds and builds and builds, and people make mountains out of molehills.
Yeah, well, listen, those are the difficult people, right? We have those for sure. Yeah, we have those. But I think in my practice, the more of what I see is people really worried about the future. And I see this more with maybe my millennials or young families, where they're really worried about the kids and the future and, like, what's next for them and next steps. I feel like it does look different in certain generations right now.
Sure.
As well. Yeah.
Yes, life experience has a lot to do with that. The realization that the Trump won't be around forever, and we all know that because we've lived through lots of other very weird times when it felt like the world was going to end, and somehow or other
it didn't.
It didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. But I think reminding people of that, like, again, when
it works, though. You remind people of that, and they will give you a speech on how this is the worst moment in human history. Yeah.
And it may be, but only time will answer that, actually. I mean, it feels that way a lot.
Yeah. But this is the main thinking error that I see too, is like futurizing, right? Like, we can't see the future. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know. We just know what we can focus on today or tomorrow and make things small. And this reframing, this, catastrophic thinking or these futurizing thoughts, looking at it really from an angle of, like, what's working for me now, like, do I have a really nice family? Do I have a job that I really care about? Do I have people who will support me? Our brain often, because we're firing away thousands of thoughts all the time, will just start to file it in different categories. And unfortunately, the negative one always seems to be first. But if we can flip that script around and really focus on what is going well first, the negative things tend to actually then get smaller and less worrisome. So it is about flipping that around, and we can rewire our brains. It just takes time and energy to do it, and a real consistent effort.
And forefronting the negative stuff is probably an evolutionary thing, right? Is that mammoth going to stomp me, or can I sit here and grind the corn? I mean, those things probably didn't happen at the same time.
Grind the corn?
Whatever. Outside
they could have.
Well, I don't know what that means. Grind the corn?
Yeah, in your little mortar and pestle, making your.
Okay.
Sorry, it was just an image that came to me that I did not express well. But yeah, I mean, it just seems to me that of course we go to the negative possibilities first because you want to protect yourself.
Yeah, and I think when we're thinking about technology, that is what we see, right? I mean, those are the images and those are the stories that you get 24/7 on your feed. They're not the dogs on the skateboards as much.
That's true.
For those.
That's right. So you mentioned families.
Yes.
How do you advise people who have family members they love?
I know where this is going.
Who have the opposite opinion from you about some of these things.
Which I have seen over the last, many years, that really changing. I felt like people before would come in and talk about their families and say, oh yeah, we just don't agree, but we still love each other. Where now people are saying, we don't agree and I despise them and I'm cutting them out of my life and I'm having no more communication with them. And that is newer. That is really surprising. But I think the intensity of these conversations is much more significant. So yeah, we talk about setting boundaries. Like, what are your limits? Can we talk about these things at the Canadian Thanksgiving, or can we not? Right? Can we just say we're here to focus on our future, loving each other together, or do we have to limit the political conversations that we're going to have here, or do we not go, because it gets too difficult. Right. So setting your boundaries and understanding what they are, and then really actively listening is the first step. What is the person saying? Do we understand what they're saying? Because sometimes people say things and we're like, that sounds insane. Do they really mean that? So I think before getting defensive and before striking it down, really ask a question. Did you say this or did you mean this? To try to gather a little bit more information. But yeah, I see a lot of times people don't hear the information. We get stuck on some of these points, and a lot of the arguments really focus on beliefs and values now, right? Like this is my beliefs, this is my value, and you don't have the same as me anymore. So it gets people really fired up.
Right. Where if you just listen maybe beyond the words and try to find something that might have motivated them that you might agree with.
Yeah, and focus on the behavior, right? Like, what's the behavior that I see versus attack of a person's character, right? Like, Uncle George is always saying this and he's a terrible person because he believes this. I mean, once we start attacking the character, it's pretty much over. So nobody's going to hear you anymore anyway. Right. So looking at, the behavior that I noticed, Uncle George, is that you were and you seemed upset. It felt to me like you were having really strong feelings. Like, focus just on the behavior, and how it made you feel, and that will tend to again keep it a little bit under the escalation point. But yeah, you're going to get people who are going to start finger pointing and doing that. So then, how do you get out of that situation? Well, you can leave, right? Like, if you don't like how things are going, you can step away. You could take a break. You could say, let's have this conversation at the next Thanksgiving. I mean, there are things that we can do, but you have to pick your battles and see what is worth it in the end.
I just had someone describe their Thanksgiving to me as if a holiday that goes on until someone either cries or leaves.
Yeah. Yep. Even all the expats living abroad, like, there's a reason we're here, right? Like, there's a reason why we live far away.
Sometimes.
So keeping that in perspective as well. Yeah. It's difficult.
Yeah. David, go ahead. We both spoke at the same time again.
Do you find that there is a lot of, another one of these awkward questions, but just spell it out, kind of drugs in the world at the moment? And I'm not talking about the self-medicating kind, although guilty as charged, but just a lot of people
mention the bar.
Well, a lot of people seem to be on a lot of pills for a lot of reasons, and I particularly notice this amongst younger people, like teenagers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's interesting living in the Netherlands because the most you'll ever get prescribed here is like paracetamol, which is like Tylenol. You could be going in with major flus. You could be going in with pink eye. I don't know. They're like basically like, take a paracetamol. They don't prescribe hardly anything here.
Wow.
Interesting.
which is quite difficult for some people coming from countries like ours where they do. And so really understanding that. But here, there is not an oversaturation of prescriptions or prescribed use for anything. But what I do see is I get some study abroad students who come in with packs and packs and packs of medication.
Yep, yeah, I see that here, yeah.
And it also scares me quite a bit because now they're living abroad for 4 months, 5 months, and they just have an abundancy of medication. And obviously they're on these medications for a reason. But like, is there any depression that's current? Is there any suicidality? I mean, you have 500 pills or things like that. So I see it in that reference point. And I do see it in some of my patients in the US, like being prescribed more medications, but also it's generational, like who wants to take these medications versus who doesn't. So I think I see a change in that as well. But yeah, here in the Netherlands, it is not an issue at all.
Do you think it's an issue in some other parts of the world because of bad science, or stress really is worse in some places?
Well, I think it depends on the place, but I think stress can be worse in some places. But I also think it's just the mentality around healing, like what people feel like they need to do to heal. And some people do need medication. Like I'm definitely never going to shut down that people don't need meds. And especially with some chemical imbalances like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, it is impossible to function without medication.
Right.
It's very difficult. So, I mean, a lot of times people do need medications, but I think it is how you heal. Like when your body is really struggling, what do you do to help it? Do you eat food from the ground? Do you eat healthy things? Do you move your body? Do you exercise? Or do you just lay around, in this space without support, without leaving your home? Then I could see how you would go to this place of, I have nothing, I can't do anything, I have no motivation, maybe this medication would help me. And for some people it does, but not for most. And it's not something that people should be on forever, right? Like it is not this magic pill. People still actually have to do the work. I always find it interesting as a therapist for 20 years that people are like, I got on Prozac and I thought everything would be fine. I'm like, no, you still have to do the work. Like you'll have to talk about feelings and learn new coping skills and figure out how to repeat patterns. Like the medication just makes you start to function and come out of the haze. It doesn't solve everything. So that's something I have to prove to people all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, this is slightly off in a different direction, but what about people who deeply desire to see their friends and family? We were talking about wanting to be distant from them, but maybe they want to be with them, but they don't want to go back to the US right now.
Yeah, that's really tricky. And I have a lot of these people. So what do? Do we try to get families to come here? I mean, what are the likelihood that they can move here? Like I just recently had a family whose one set of the grandparents moved here. Like they figured it out and they got them there and they were really open to that. But oftentimes this might not be an option. Say you have sick family members who need their care, who need their things, and systems are quite different. So how often can you get back to see them? Or again, how do you stay connected without being back? Do you call them every day? Do you FaceTime with them every day? Technology can be our friend. Use it in a helpful way.
Where podcasts come from.
Yeah. But I think we have to be able to utilize it. And again, not shutting down to say, I miss them, I'm never going to see them again. Like, how do we problem solve it? Or even how do we get, like, how can we meet somewhere halfway? Like, can we, plan a family vacation together for people who are able to do that? Again, if you have sick family, that's really hard. You're going to decide if you can go or you don't and what that looks like for you.
Right. Wow. That's great. I think I have run out of questions for the moment. David, do you have any more?
One of the things that I see a lot of is people frustrated, and we see a lot of it from, I hate to say it, young, white, straight men. And we see a lot of this, a lot of people, when you look at the rise of the Republicans in the United States, it's a feeling of being disenfranchised, and you're a young, white, straight guy, you've never done anything bad in your entire life. and yet a lot of society tells you that you are the problem. Is there anything to that?
I mean, I think it's an interesting question to look at. Do I have a lot of young, white, straight patients? I do, actually, right now. And I actually see a lot of these individuals right now who are really going through what I consider like an awakening. Like, what is my role in this, or what has been previous generations' role in this and understanding. So really trying to explore that. Maybe they are not the problem overall, but maybe there has been a piece somewhere, that has trickled down, or there's a reason why people have targeted this, demographic at this stage. But I am really finding in my practice now a lot of men, late 20s, early to mid 30s, talking about feelings and figuring out, hey, I don't want to keep going with this some intergenerational trauma that was passed down from my grandfather to my father to now to me, or I have a young family and I need to figure out how to make that change. Wow. So that's more of what I'm seeing versus, why are they so angry at me? I didn't do anything.
I'm going to vote for Trump because he understands me.
Yeah, I haven't seen as much of that. So I think it depends on where in the world, we are. But in Amsterdam, not so much. That's not really what I'm seeing.
That's great. Where and also when, probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
Robin, is there anything that you want to add that you haven't had a chance to say?
I mean, I just feel like living abroad is such an interesting experience. And if people can experience it, it's lovely, but so difficult. And I don't want to always highlight being an expat is the best thing in the world. It's really hard. You really come from a place where you have built-in connections and support, and you have to redo everything wherever you live abroad. You have to learn a new metric system. You have to learn how different money works or how the language is and who can be there for you, who can't. It's like being on a perpetual job interview with like interviewing new friends. So I think from this point of view, when you have things going on in your home country or you feel really isolated, the mental health can really take a turn more quickly than I think if you had this good support. So I think that's probably why the practices here and in other countries are booming, because people just need to connect.
So at what moment would somebody, what would you recommend to somebody as the moment where they should reach out and ask for help?
I think it's probably different for everyone, but when it gets to the point where you're struggling, like doing daily things that you used to love or enjoy, and those things are fading off, it's a red flag. When you're not sleeping or eating the way you used to, it's a red flag. If you're starting to really isolate from other people, again, another red flag. These are all signs and symptoms of depression. If you have racing thoughts and you are literally thinking about the same thing for hours and hours on end and you can't get it out of your head, or you're starting to do certain tics to control these things like checking the stove or the doorknob all the time, like those are things that, again, I would say it's time.
Right. Amazing. Robin, thank you so much. This has been extremely interesting.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. If you live outside the U.S., please register with your voting state at votefromabroad.org every year. Do it now. To find all our episodes, go to democratsabroad.org and look for us in the drop-down menus. I'm Rachel Oikster with David Schellenberg in Ottawa, Canada. Thank you for listening to Democrats Abroad, the Blue Vote Cafe.